Monday. It is that time again. Good morning and welcome, and thank you so much for joining us on Mahala Monday today. The 1st of Feb, month of love. It is all happening, and it's brilliant to have you along with us. My name is Dougal, and as always alongside me, it's the month of love. There she is, Rhoda.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mahala Monday. Quite exciting, and a new month starting with February. Wow, time is flying.
I tell you what, it is absolutely, this is absolutely brilliant. But before I say that, let me just remind you, this is an interactive show. So we're live right now on YouTube, on Facebook. So you get to connect with us. We've got a great guest today for you, of course. So really, you're going to get the nuts and the bolts, the tools, whatever it is you need, you're going to get it today. So you simply interact with us. And of course, any comments or questions that you might have at MK Productions. It is as easy as that to get in touch with us. So yes, you did say month of love, and let me get straight into it. So we're bringing the love because this is important. Business owners, people starting out a business.
So true.
All the help you can possibly think of, Rhoda.
Oh yes, and you know what is so important, Dougal, because having to start a business is very overwhelming, and you always want the expert out there to be able to say, what must I do? Where, dodge this bullet, dodge that bullet, and need that assistance. Somebody take you by the hand and say, okay, let me show you how. So. And
I think that is the important thing that you've just touched on, because if every sort of business owner, and I mean, you're thinking survival. How do I grow? How do I, any entrepreneur, anybody, and right now in the middle of this pandemic, and everybody is sort of sitting waiting. How do you innovate? How do you reinvent? How does the goalpost have shifted? You all know this. Even if, and I want to be clear, this is not just for anybody who's got a business, who's been running a business for X amount of time. And you might be saying to yourself, well, I've been doing this for couple of years, I kind of know what's going. No, the goalposts are always shifting. You always want to grow. There's always something else that and demands of the market is moving.
Almost definitely, Dougal. It is very challenging out there right now, and a lot of business owners and guys is wanting to start in a position where they've actually lost their jobs. How do I start a business? Because they can't find work, and your difficulty is sometimes your age. I mean, having to find work again once you've been retrenched with this COVID. How do I take that next step to be able to say, you know what, let me look at maybe making my rotis, and making that into a business. How do I actually do that? What steps do I take? And this is exactly what the show is all about today.
So there you have it. So even if you are a business owner and you've had your business for many a moon, or you are thinking about starting a business, and this is definitely it, because today we're awakening that entrepreneurial spirit, because this is really what we do here at Mahala Monday. We give you all the information you need so you can make informed decisions, and of course get the information at hand, and at least you know where to turn to for advice. So that is what Mahala Monday is all about. And don't forget, of course, it is an interactive show, so we welcome your comments, your questions at MK Productions, and of course all those details at the bottom of your screen. So without further ado, this is what we're going to be talking about today. So you want to grow your business, you want to get the freedom to do everything in the business, and of course just make savvy decisions, just be at the cutting edge. Then we've delved around, looked everywhere, and I tell you what, there is no better person and no better people to speak to than the team at OptiGrowth. So and that is exactly who we're going to talk to today, because they really specialize in, as Rhoda so eloquently put it, taking you by the hand, going to that next level, and that is what it's all about. So today we're going to be talking to OptiGrowth, and joining us from OptiGrowth will be Damion Stander, and we talk to him next.
Good morning, Damon. Welcome to Mahala Monday.
Thank you, Rhoda. Nice to be with you. Always good to start a new month on the first day on a Monday.
Oh yeah. So, Damon, we're going to get straight into the nuts and bolts on what our discussion is today. And, the discussion we'll be having is guiding our business owners and, taking a task of growing and turning around a business and build it to a successful business enterprise. And this is what our discussion is about this morning. So we're probably going to jump right into this and start discussing this. And, having you as an expert here is brilliant, and helping our guys out there reading and listening to this today to be able to assist them on making those informed decisions on what next.
Awesome. Well, firstly, thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for the invite. I think the first point to talk about is the fact that most business owners and entrepreneurs tend to be very good at doing a single thing, as in, photography, videography, electrical, engineering, whatever it may be, right? And what we often tend to forget is that most businesses tend to have or should be falling back on a foundation of practices or good practices, right? And OptiGrowth as a company, it was established to try and help business owners, particularly people who are experts at what they do, but might not understand the sort of business aspects around that, to grow and put together the building blocks of building their own companies. So today's discussion is all just about how do we build a strategy and how do we better understand about building your company brick for brick, or building this platform where effectively you can grow and to move forward on. And I thought the first place to start off with would be to maybe do a bit of a self-assessment. So most business owners tend to not look at their businesses from a high level perspective. They work very much in their companies. And the first place to look at is what is my business structure currently looking like? Am I sitting in a startup phase where literally it's all about the money in the bank? It's a scratch to survive. It's hard to survive. And it's all about that survival stage. It's all about making that one deal, that second deal, that third deal. Or am I sitting at a point where my business right now can provide me the lifestyle I need? So it's effectively paying for what I need to live. I'm pretty comfortable as a business owner or as an entrepreneur. The business isn't necessarily struggling, but it's not doing too well. But I can deal with it. It's something where I can make the month come through quite easily, and I can make the month work as well. The next stage we look at is genuinely looking at how does a business look at scaling. And when we talk about scaling, we ask the question to any business owner, if I had to give you 5 times more customers or 5 times more revenue, how easily would it be for you to take on that business and to keep that business going quite well, firstly, but secondly, to make it profitable? And you'll be surprised at how many business owners tend to struggle with that question. Many people think if I get 5 times more customers, that'll be great. But sometimes the back end, the sort of value chain that you've got in the backside of your business that supports and develops your products, tends to struggle to accommodate or to adapt to that. If your business can't do that, then you're more than likely sitting in that lifestyle phase where you can make it work when it happens, but you can't quickly adapt, quickly move. So when we talk about scalability, we want to be able to adapt fast and move fast to any changes in our business that may have. It's effectively like a little building block. You plug the one puzzle in, you plug the other one out, so you take it off and you move it out. And then what OptiGrowth really sort of buys into, and what we want all business owners to think about, is how do we make your company sellable? And when we talk about sellability, it doesn't necessarily mean that we want to talk about selling your company, but what sellability does is it gives you the freedom to choose where you want to go to and what you want to do. And Dougal, we spoke a bit off air about people wanting to not move away or have their business die when they sort of pass on, or they move on, or they stop working. Now, when you look at your company as being sellable, there are a few options that open up to you. Firstly, I can sell my shares. So if I've been working in my business for 30, 40, 50 years, I can build my retirement, I can get some money out of my company, and all that hard work and effort and investment I've done, I can sell through. I can hand the business over to the next generation of either managers or even family if they want to take over. Or I can sit back as a chairman of the board, or I can sit back as just somebody who runs the company but doesn't have to do the physical hard graft and labor and make an income defining the strategies and working the strategies for it. Right? That's where we as OptiGrowth start pushing our customers to. How do we start thinking bigger scale than just thinking about having the lifestyle business ourselves?
And I quite like that, Damion, as well, because you're talking about capital and really the business sort of being independent from a person running it. Now, obviously, looking at the last couple of months, the last year or so, the pandemic has definitely thrown in some interesting challenges, of course, for this. Now, if we just sort of phase out and we look across the board in terms of where businesses are, and if you could tell us and sort of define a business strategy, what is that? What is the business strategy? Is that just meeting as things come your way? Also a business plan and a business model, because these are things we hear all the time.
It's a good question. So a business strategy looks at effectively what are the stepping stones that you take now to grow a business in the next period. That period can be a year, it can be 3 years, it can be 5 years, it can be 10 years, even depending on how mature your company is, right? So a business strategy will literally look at the little plans I've got to put in place, the little targets or KPIs, the key performance indicators I need to put in place to achieve a goal. A business plan takes your business profile effectively. So what do we do? Where do you want to go? What do I want to achieve? and it shares that open to a public forum or to a stakeholder forum, people who may be interested in what the grand scheme of the business may be. So it's not necessarily a detailed plan of how the business will get there, but it effectively shows people what the business does and where the vision of the company is going to.
Okay.
Very good document that for selling or getting funding, getting investments, selling shares potentially, or just using it as a profile for suppliers or customers to understand what you do as a company. The last one of a business model talks to what are the fundamental blocks in my company that I need to make sure work to deliver the best possible service or product to my customer. And that can be things like understanding who your customer is firstly, how do I build a relationship with my customers, what is my value proposition from a good marketing term. It can be something like, what are my costs, my revenue structures. So it's all these the building blocks of what your company is effectively in that business model discussion. So 3 very similar things, but very different things effectively if you want to put it together and plan for them.
Yeah, and just chatting on that one, Damion, because having to start off when we had started our business, I found it extremely frustrating and quite overwhelming whenever they spoke about business plans. You know, there was always, oh, you must have a business plan. You must have a business plan. And I mean, when I look at some business plans, these documents look like a lawyer's document trying to figure out the nitty-gritty and the small things about it. And, you know, it was like when I started years ago, it was you need to have a business plan. And now looking at these different ones, which is your business strategy, and you've got business models, obviously at this point, having to start a business, you would advise to actually look at these 3 options, and all 3 options would work if you're wanting to start your own business, either wanting or talking about, you know, business plans. Am I correct?
100%. So, look, I think it's always a question of what is the purpose you're trying to serve. Are you trying to go out and find funding or trying to motivate somebody to look at your business? And then a business plan is a good way of demonstrating what your business can do. When you look at a strategy document or a strategy or a strat plan, for example, that's an interactive or a constantly reviewed documentation. It shouldn't be looked at just once. A business plan or business profile is effectively a once-off document because every iteration of that would, I'm assuming, and should change as the business grows in its lifespan. Yeah. So it's unfortunately one of the things you need to understand the purpose of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and then work towards that purpose.
Oh, perfect.
So if anyone's starting a company, the first thing I would do, if you're not looking for funding, is to look at your business model and to understand how am I going to deliver to my customer, right? Because that's important. If I don't know what my customer wants, I don't know how to deliver to that, then what's the point of starting the company?
Yeah.
So true.
You've actually just answered the question I wanted to ask you, because even if you were a startup looking at a strategy, apart from having your business model and all of that, but looking at a strategy would be cardinal. It would be important. It doesn't matter if your business is 20 years old or whether your business is still just in your head and you're looking to start it next week or you started it last month, but having that would be very, very important from the get-go.
100%. And I'll say it a bit later, but I'll say it now quickly. If you don't sell, you die, unfortunately, right? So if you don't know how to satisfy your customer needs, if you can't produce enough for what your customers want, unfortunately, your business is doomed to fail. Yeah. So again, if you're starting and you don't have a requirement of building or trying to get funding or trying to get people and investors in, then my first point of call will be a business model. Have a look at what you do and how you do it, and make sure it serves your customer best. Yeah. And then a strategy document, and then a profile can be built afterwards.
Perfect. And you know what?
Right.
This is exactly what OptiGrowth is all about. And you know, and I would advise anybody out there wanting more information, get in contact with OptiGrowth. And these questions are so important, and this is exactly information we need. And you know, just having to look at OptiGrowth, they will be able to assist you with these difficult questions, because having to actually figure out the differences between these 3 is actually very important. Instead of spending all that time actually trying to do a business plan, in actual fact, that's not what you wanted, you know. So very important.
No, it is very important. And Damion, just looking at those stages of business in terms of startup, lifestyle, scalable, and having reaching the level of sellability, any business that would turn to OptiGrowth, because these are the things you do. It doesn't matter which phase that business is in.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's not like if you already at the sellable bit that OptiGrowth can't get involved or people can't turn to you for help and advice. Any business, doesn't matter where you are, whether you're a startup or an established business. I mean, there's definitely no, you know what I mean? New tricks, dog, we all know the saying. So just to be clear, you can really come to the fore and to the aid of any business, any enterprise at any stage.
Yeah, so we have an offering for anyone who wants to start the company. We've got something called a group mastermind where any business owner can have a look and a chat. Or we've got our one-on-one sessions where more bigger businesses can have one-on-one interactions to sort of define what they need and where they need to go to.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Right.
And just a question quickly. A business basically having no financial history, and how do you overcome the hardship of trying to put together a forecast? And I mean, this is something that's to get discussed quite a lot, a forecast. And guys, not weather forecast, it's actually your business forecast. And if you could just give us a little bit more details regarding that, and not having that finances and having to create this forecast, what is that all about for those guys wanting to start their own business as well? And for those that actually has a business, because I think a lot of guys actually don't have it, even if they got a business.
It's a very good question, but I definitely touched on that in the next slide. So I just want to run through the slide, and I will get there because it's a really good question, that one. So I think what we also need to understand is with most businesses, I'm just going to flick through it quickly.
Yeah.
That with most businesses, there are certain areas of risk we have to understand. So when we look at a sellable company, any business investor or any someone looking to buy into a company will ask questions about, is your financial planning and management in order, right? Can you scale, and are there growth opportunities in your company? What is the risk of focusing too much on one key supplier, key employee, or key customer? Because if I remove one key customer, one key supplier, one key employee, does the business falter or fall? Now, if you guys think about it, most business owners tend to be that one person in the company who does everything, right? So if I remove the business owner from the business, does the business survive? And if it doesn't, that business is effectively worth zero. It's worth nothing, right? So we need to try and look at how we can try and build the value of a company, and then, of course, look at that sellability stage. And mitigating that risk of one key person being involved is one of those key elements to that. Cash flow is a no-brainer. If you don't have money, unfortunately, if you don't have cash in the bank, you're going to really struggle to spend and invest in things. The second or the fifth one in line here is looking at something called recurring revenue. Now, recurring revenue is something where your sales become more predictable. It's effectively a predictable income stream. And that can be through things like retainers, so contracts. It's a way of me not having to go out and sell as hard as I do for a single sale, but once I sell once, that sale comes through every single month for my business. And the better I can build recurring revenue, the less risky my business becomes as well. The third last point is how differentiates my business. Is my business different to what my competitors are? Because if I'm just the same old company to what my competitors are doing, then that means my clients will be able to quickly substitute and change between me and my competitors. I need to make sure that my business remains sticky for what my customers need. And the only way to do that is to market that correctly and to work it out as clear as you can and show your customers what you're doing differently. The second last one is looking at how do we build a referral customer base. And the third and the last one is, do I have the company structure that allows my business to be successive? As in, is the succession plan going through? Do I have employees who are working through and taking over tasks? And am I able to delegate tasks to my employees where they can take over the functions that I have to do as a business owner? So relieving me of the operational pressures and focusing on moving my business forward from a more strategic perspective as well.
All right.
So Rhoda, so I'm going to skip that off because already. So Rhoda, to your question, we need to also then consider, how do we start moving the business forward, right?
Yeah.
We've got to have strategies. We've got to implement those strategies with speed. And we've got to make sure that when we start implementing strategies, they are intentful, right? And I know it's probably not the right word, but it has to be done with intent. We've got to make sure we are absolutely committed to that strategy and there's absolute focus to doing it, right? If there's not that focus, for me as a business owner, then there's no ways that strategy will come through and move through. The third thing is I've got to be transparent. And transparency is transparent with my suppliers potentially, transparent with my customers to some extent, but most of all, transparent with my staff. I've got to make sure my staff understand why I'm doing it. I've got to make sure that they are influenced in the way that I want to do it as well. And by influencing, I mean not badly, but influencing them in a way that they buy into it and they work towards it with me. And the last part is I need to create an environment for cooperation. And again, when we say all parties, we don't just talk about your staff, we talk about your suppliers because they're a big part of your business. Most businesses can't operate with a very strong supplier base. We also need to make sure that our customers understand that when I start a change in my business, they are either part of it or they're not part of it. So an environment of cooperation is vital, especially when we start building or changing things around. As we grow from a starting company to a bigger company, we've got to make sure that we push those things through as hard as possible as well. All right.
Yes. No, please continue.
So what we also have to do, COVID-19 has put us into a very difficult spot as a business, right? So we have to understand that, unfortunately, most of us tend to want to move back and to protect what we've got right now. That protection strategy tends to be very dangerous, because if we can't protect it, if we're not looking at moving forward or adapting to these changes, the chances are the business will tend to crumble. Because if I can't protect what I've got now, I've got nothing to fall back on.
Yeah.
So with COVID-19 and with the way that the world is rapidly changing, I mean, I'm assuming that we would have done this face-to-face if it wasn't for COVID, right?
Yeah.
So really the change in technology and the way we do things is important. So adaptation is the key to any success. And if I talk about adaptation, at OptiGrowth, we don't proclaim to be the experts at everything. I mean, there's no ways we can do that. What we are good at and what we are experts in is how to structure companies and how to build businesses. But what we expect is the business owner who is the expert at their particular item has to be innovative, has to be able to see things differently, and then use the structures that we build with them to adapt and change what they're doing.
Yeah. Because there's a couple of things I want to ask you, Damion. Sorry, if you just give me a quick moment. So obviously joining us this morning, as you know, this is an interactive show. So firstly, just greetings, Abigail Titus. Thanks you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And yes, definitely very, very informative. Then I've also got a question for you from Heng, one of our viewers who's coming in, and says, Damion, morning, can you please explain, or can we why is it so important to do a benchmark for your business and what exactly it entails? And I want to put that question in there. I know you're sort of mid-sentence, but I want to put that question in there for you right now. And then on the back of that, also you spoke about differentiation and just a short moment ago. Can you give me another example? When we say differentiation, is this also speaking to making your product delivery better, your service delivery better, sort of really distinguishing between you and your customers? Is this like the added value? Is that really what you meant with that? And also, if you could explain benchmark to me. I'm sorry, I know it's loaded, but yeah, Mahala Monday, it's extra.
Listen. The fact is, no business discussion if it's not randomized and completely all over the place is worth having if someone isn't intending to make it look good, right? So the question about benchmarking, the reason why it's important, the only way to explain it easily is if anyone's ever done a fitness exercise or someone's tried to do anything with regards to getting healthy, getting fitter, we've got to start somewhere, right? And we've got to do something to understand that we're getting better. And the only way we can do that is to do a benchmark, right? And what a benchmark looks at is what is the current state of the position or the environment or the business I'm in right now. Am I in a good state, a mature state, an immature state? Can I put a score to that? Can I put a metric to that? And the same with fitness and business is we've got to make sure that we understand what that position is right now. So when I start progressing and when I start looking forward and growing, I can always revert back to that position and say, have I improved from there? So doing a benchmark is important because I want to know where do I come from and where I'm at this point in time. Is it worse or is it better? If it's better, why is it better? If it's worse, why is it worse again? And can I make the adaptation to that?
And sorry, Damion, and looking at the current situation with the COVID pandemic, having a benchmark is more important than ever before.
100%. And look, more than likely, if we did a benchmark before COVID and now, a lot of businesses would have taken quite a big step back in their business benchmarking. They'd probably sitting a lot lower, and there's nothing wrong with that. Is it bad? Is it tough? 100%. But it's definitely not going to be the end of the world if you take a few steps back in your business growth or your business life cycle at the moment, because the whole world's been affected. There's changes in our economies, changes in our political environments that we just can't control. So the question will be, can we understand that? Can we adapt to that? And can we now move forward again from this current position now?
Yeah. Wow. And Damion, sorry, and just touching on that differentiation, this is any sort of value that you would add with your product and services that you supply.
So some products and services can make it a lot easier, right? So it's a wording change, it's a way I sell it, right? And some products can naturally just be different. So if you've got a very niche product or something that's not done quite regularly, it's quite easy to be different. The problem comes in is if I'm a coffee salesperson or if I'm a bread salesperson, how do I then differentiate? How do I make my company stand out from the crowd? And you mentioned earlier the things we do versus the things we sell sometimes, right? And sometimes the service I give over what I'm actually selling can be a differentiator. The fact that the customer understands what's in the product or what's in the service more so than the other companies or my competitors can also be a differentiator. But effectively, it's just the point of understanding what your customer needs and how to display it. Easy example, Woolworths, Pick n Pay, Spar, and ShopRite effectively all sell the exact same things, right? They all sell bread, milk, sugar, honey, coffee, tea, whatever else it is. They just do it differently, and they advertise differently, and they produce it differently, and that's how you differentiate. That's the key concept of differentiation.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much for explaining that, because it is sometimes a tricky one. I think it is a tricky one, and especially if you're starting out, in a brand new business. So we were talking about forecast, and as Rhoda said, it wasn't a weather anything like that, which is what I think. But.
100%. So forecasting is one of those real things we struggle with our customers. Our customers don't like doing it. It's not something that's exciting, because it's actually quite terrifying to some extent. But before we talk forecasting, we've got to understand what financial management looks at, right?
Okay.
And the first thing is there's two varying aspects with regards to financial management. The first one is accounting, and accounting focuses on what happens in the past. So it's all about record keeping. It's all about understanding the business's current state, and is the business profitable, and does the business model work. The next stage is your financial stage, and that looks at what am I going to do in the future with the cash I'm getting to make this business work. Where am I going in the future? And financial management is about future looking, and accounting is about historical data, right? So when we look at forecasting becomes important, because that's the target I'm setting myself for where I want to go into the next year, 2 years, potentially even 6 months, depending on how things change, like COVID. But what does the future look like for me? And forecasting is difficult because there's no guarantee it'll happen. There's nothing I can do to make sure that does happen with regards to some sort of certainty. So it's always hard doing that. But effectively, what we see it as is what targets I set myself.
Yeah.
What do I want to do? And the more we do that, the more we test ourselves on that, and the more we implement those sort of structures, the better we become at it.
Yeah.
So after 4 or 5 years of doing an annual forecast, the chances are you should get better at it. You should know your business better.
Yeah.
And I think that's where business owners need to also just make sure that they don't fall in the trap of just sitting back and doing nothing.
Yeah.
Rather try something, even if it's really basic. Try something, put it down, and see how it feels, see how it fits.
Yeah. And Damion, if I may add my 2 cents, because it makes your business agile. Because like you said, it is so difficult to say what if we only all had a crystal ball. But it makes your business agile by just doing that, so you can quicker adapt, which is really the essence of any business.
So what we don't often think about is when we do a forecast, right, we want to put down firstly something that's achievable. It has to be relevantly achievable, or relevant to and achievable, but it also has to be quite ambitious. So we want to make sure that it scares us a little bit, right? Yeah. Because when I make that revenue, when I start pushing that revenue through, the next question that comes in, I'm going to go on to the next slide anyway. The next question that comes into that discussion is, can the business structure I've got behind me support that revenue, right? So when I look at building my company organogram, I've got to understand, do the various functions in the business, and remember that's what an organogram does effectively. It puts together the functions that a business is to deliver. Things like business development, things like financial management or your finance department, things like your production teams. What are the key functions of the business that I've got to put together? And can those key functions deliver with the revenue I'm forecasting, right? Another thing that organogram does quite nicely for us is it starts building the different roles and positions within the company as divisional structures, the departmental structures, and maybe even business units. When we've got those areas defined, the big part then is, can I understand who fulfills those roles in our company? But secondly, can I put down metrics or KPIs, so key performance indicators of what those people must do? And a very basic key performance indicator, as an example, is a salesperson. If I've done my forecast, and if I put together a forecast that is achievable, there's a very good chance that I can tell my salesperson, this is your monthly target to go out and chase. Go out, find this business, find this work, and bring it back to the company. And if you do well, here's commission, here's a reward, here's a bonus, here's a promotion, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Damion, I want to move on because with COVID-19, things have have really gone. Normal is there and abnormal is here, and it's all sideways. So at the moment we're north, south, east, west, and a lot of us, and when I say us, I mean business owners or even startup businesses, everybody is sort of waiting for when things go normal. You know, they sort of looking from out of the tree, looking down. I mean, and in essence, we want to know how important is to cutting edge. And what you've been explaining is that tools. But now all of a sudden, there's a human element we're dealing with as well. A lot of businesses, and I'm asking this to purely just as what the situation is. A lot of businesses have either let go of their staff complement, and as a business owner, you might think to yourself, how do I help somebody? Not all of us maybe have a bit of money to give, but maybe you in a position where you have a business, you could maybe provide work, employment for, let's say, a family, a friend, or anything like that, because people are trying to help out. Now, there's already a relationship. How difficult is that? Is that something we can advise to or not give advice to? How do you approach that?
So, and the answer is with difficulty, right? It's very difficult to work with friends, families, and people you know.
Yeah.
It becomes a challenge because the emotional side of it can sometimes overtake the logical side of it. So the only way, and through experience of our own, through OptiGrowth and other companies we've worked with, the only way is to make sure you put down the structure of how that person works within your organization. You never build a company around your people. You never build a company around the people. The people become part of the company. So if that structure is set up and if that structure is defined in your company, any person coming in, whether it's a family member, a friend, has to fulfill a certain role, and that role can be measured for performance criteria, but also how they then deliver to what the company needs are. And that tends to clear out quite a bit of the frustration or the emotional side of the business aspect as well. Yeah.
No, and I suppose that is really it. So, are you saying in a way it's almost fit for purpose? Is that what we say?
Just repeat again.
In a way, it's almost like you were saying you are the employee or the person involved is almost fit for purpose, and whatever the structure is, that is really the essence.
100%. So I mean, I don't know if you guys have any experience in it, but very often somebody comes to ask for work or ask for opportunity, and we tend to want to do nice, so we make a plan for them, right? We make a position up for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What we do is we need to be very clear of the fact that there's a position available, and that person fits that position or they don't fit that position.
Yeah.
And if they can't fit that position, then unfortunately we have to decide either they don't come to the company or they've got to skill up, train up to get ready for that position as well.
Yeah.
And it's very different.
Yeah, I was going to say, and having to basically obviously run a business, having family at the end of the day, you have to obviously also be wary of the fact that you are running a business, and if that person can, like you say, fit that position and actually can do that job, that's very important, because it could also then eventually drag your business even further down if you're actually thinking family but you're not thinking business either. So it's having to juggle between family and business, really. It's difficult.
You know what, and the reason we're bringing it up, because it's a very important thing. It is a very South African thing. It is, we take each other by the hand. That is our makeup. That is our DNA as a society. Yeah. So it is a very, very important thing. And I know of many businesses where there is family involved in the business. I know that, and especially now, I think that demand would increase as a result of the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think that demand would increase. So it is very important to differentiate that, and of course, to understand that. So Damion, no, thank you very much for that. But this is where it gets exciting, because we're talking revenue models, how you make money. This is it.
So just before we get there, I think another point that we've been talking a lot about with our customers about company structures is, when do I start letting staff go? And it's a very tough discussion to have, right?
Difficult.
So when we're in a situation where our revenue is falling, our staff are no longer working as much as they should be because there's no money or there's no business to work for anymore.
Yeah.
At what point do I start cutting staff or letting staff go? And it's a very tough discussion, because like you said, Dougal, in South Africa, we very much want to hold hands. We want to make sure that we look after each other. The problem is if we hold on for too long with particular staff members who are no longer needed in the company, the risk is the business closes down and we shut out the staff members who are still needed. And it's a very difficult thing to sort of talk about or to put on the table. Is do I sacrifice, and by sacrifice I mean let go of a few staff members to make sure the business survives, and to keep money coming into my key employees' accounts, right, and to keep them surviving? Or do I hold on and eventually the business shuts down because we're actually not making losses?
Yeah.
And I think that those discussions, again, we go back to the foundation of building a structure, building the job descriptions, understanding what each role needs to do. That decision becomes a lot easier, and it takes a little bit of the emotion out of it at least.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that
But
is.
to your excitement,
So yes, revenue models. You
Revenue
said it
models, right?
earlier. You said I must remind you if you don't say it.
so with regards to revenue, if you don't sell, unfortunately, if you don't sell, you die, right?
Yeah.
Any business who's not getting money in, more than likely is going to struggle to survive. And the first thing we have to consider doing is, how do we create customer value? What is the things we're doing to satisfy the customer's needs? And more often than not, any business is making a customer's life more simpler. So what do I do in my company that identifies the need of a customer and brings it down to more simplicity? You think about, again, if I go back to the Woolworths, the Pick and Pays, the ShopRites and the Spars, the need they're fulfilling is not food. The need they're fulfilling is I can quickly pop in somewhere and get everything that I need. I don't have to go to the farm. I don't have to go to my garden and pick something out. I don't have to go hunt for meat. I can literally go to one place and I can find everything I need. So they simplify my effort in finding food, right? So understanding what value I'm adding and understanding what I'm simplifying for my customer already helps me sell better, right? And make more money. The next part is understanding the marketing effort, right? So what does the brand do? How does the brand look? And what solutions do we put out there, right? Now, no one can run a company or a business with just one service or one aspect and not talk about the solutions they offer around that. So again, yes, Pick and Pay, Woolworths, ShopRite, Spar, they do sell singular items, but the solution they offer us and the simplicity they make it is, I can go to one place and find all the food I need, right? Again, primal days, going back and hunting and gathering, that kind of stuff, they've taken away the need to do that, and I can go find it all in one spot.
Yeah.
And they advertise it as such, your one-stop shop to food or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right? The next part is understanding how do I sell? How do I reach my customer? Is it an online effort or is it an offline effort? Right? Now, when we talk recurring revenue models, recurring revenue talks about predictable income. Can I build a model, or can I build a situation where my customer can buy from me continuously with ease? Right?
Yeah.
So as an example, with OptiGrowth, we don't do once-off retainers or once-off workshops generally. What we do is we do a 12-month engagement, we sign a contract with a 12-month agreement in place, and we work for 12 months with a customer. What that means for us is that we don't have to go out firstly and sell to every single customer every single month, because once they've signed up with us, they then sit with us for 12 months at the very least. Obviously, the idea would be to go a bit longer, but once I've sold to that one customer, I don't have to worry about selling again. So my sales effort becomes easier, and I can move on to the next customer and close that deal as well.
Yeah. And,
Right.
and Damion, sorry. Yes? No, continue, please.
So look, the question now becomes, during the pandemic, selling becomes a lot more difficult, right? So no one's got money to spend. Everyone's holding on very tight to the cash they do have. And the question will always be is, how do I then get more sales? What do I do to make my business grow again? And then you look at things like pricing and how does the market shift and what more can I offer? And generally what companies must do is to move back to what are they good at? How do I stabilize my foundations again? And how do I then build from there? Once I get out of the little dip, how do I build from there again?
Now, is that a good thing? Because I suppose it's a yes or no answer because the world has moved on. If you go back to your foundations and you maybe not evolving as you're not on the edge anymore. You're not being as innovative. If you go back, because the world could have moved on.
Well, look, sometimes logging around what you're good at, and because remember, a lot of us as business owners tend to go out and try and do multiple things to get money in. Right? We tend to focus on trying to. If I'm a plumber and I start doing a bit of construction work, I start doing a bit of extra work around the side as well. Sometimes that extra work takes away the focus of what I'm fundamentally good at.
Yeah.
And during times like pandemics, while we need the money, the focus should be what am I good at and what can I do now? Because growing that basis again, the foundation, tends to be a little bit better than trying to do everything. Because when we get out of this, the trouble we're in, now you recognize the jack of all trade, not the master of one.
Yeah.
And that's that.
So true.
I suppose.
I think a very good question to ask, and having to be in the business as well. And this is what all of us are sitting with right now as business owners. Is it a good idea to actually drop your price with what's happening in the markets at the moment? Could you give some advice on that? Would it be a good idea? Because it's a very difficult decision sometimes,
And Damion, sorry, to add to that, if everybody, whatever you're answering, but I also want you to answer it from this perspective, what if the whole world is dropping their prices? What do you do then?
So in our opinion, dropping your prices is never a good idea, right? Unless it's a strategic plan to get back into the markets, right? But then that readjustment needs to happen quite quickly as well. So unless your plan is to enter and to really push through the market again, then dropping your prices might be a good idea. The negatives about dropping your pricing is that your product can seem cheap, and none of us want that. We never want to have a cheap product. The worst problem with dropping your prices is you're dropping your margins, right? You're dropping the profit you're making per sale. And what then starts to happen is it starts to become a bit of a longevity war, right?
Yeah.
Now, the longevity war talks to, if I'm a small business owner and there's a bigger company who's competing with the same industry, they can outlast me. They can cut their prices as much as they want to. They can price me out of the market, and I can close my business down, and they can then revert back to their pricing again. And the risk is, as soon as we start looking at price cuts, we start entering that phase of concern where there's a good chance that I might not last because my competitors can outweigh me.
Yeah. Now, considering all of that as it would be, what happens if you can't pay your suppliers, Damion? The people you owe money to. What happens then? How do you approach that? And I'm sure many a business find themselves in that situation.
Many of them do, and the worst thing you can do is to keep quiet. The worst thing you can do is to not say anything. So the only advice that I can give, again, it depends on suppliers and your relationship with them, is to open a conversation with them. Everyone knows everyone's struggling. There's no doubt that the COVID-19 pandemic has hit everyone to some extent quite hard. So if you can't pay your suppliers, the question will be is, how do we then advise our suppliers, and can we then make a plan to try and pay them back or to get that money moving forward again? And that'll be the great big question. You remember, I think in the third or fourth slide, there was a point there about transparency.
Yes.
Transparency right now is vital because we have to try and make sure that people understand we're not running away from it. We're still here, we're still fighting. It's just going to take a bit of time.
Yeah. And it is having that communication open. It is having that sort of relationship, which is really the essence. Now, quickly, if I could just ask you, if we look at the slide that we have up on the screen now, so right opposite marketing, it says brand and solutions. And under solutions, would it be fair to assume as well, as the market is moving on, as demands have changed, and especially, and I'm only saying that as a consequence of the pandemic, how important is it for suppliers, for business owners, for whatever your service, if you're selling service, if you're selling product, how important is it to communicate with your customer base? To ask, what is there that I could do more? How important is that? Would that also fall under a solution? Because I kind of think that's like being very trendy and innovative.
100%. So one thing we learned, and for both for ourselves and for our customers, is during a time like a pandemic now, your customer base is king. The current customers you have, and if you can hold on to your current customers, you can at least see through the tough times now. The open communication, what more can we do? What more do you need? Is there potentially a value add that I can offer, right? So value add being, I mean, you guys as Mahala Mondays are offering a value add. This is a free service for anybody who wants to dial in, right? Yes, there's background, there's a way you're making your money, and there's a way you're going to try and build this business model. But the value add is that people have access to content and information that they can't get elsewhere right now, right? Yeah. And the whole point is, I might not necessarily offer more as a deliverable, but what I can do is offer better value adds. And that solution may just tie me up a little bit tighter. And when we start growing again, may just be a bit of an upsell going forward as well.
Yeah. Okay. Very important. I got to be honest with you. We would be able to talk to you for a whole week, non-stop, because this is really exciting stuff. And you know what? We always say this, but this is and you've echoed the sentiment. So thank you very much for that, because this is exactly what we do. This is exactly what Mahala Monday is all about. So you get to profile a business or any sort of institution, and it is really getting people access to that information. That is it in a nutshell. And Damion, so far it's been really a thrill talking to you. But I've got a question for you on marketing, and then I've got a sort of a summary question. And what I want to know, how important is it for you to do marketing and to constantly be active at it?
I think if you don't market, you're in big trouble. Marketing is vital, right? So what marketing does, and I think cash flow is cash flow is quite an important one, but we can skip over quickly. I think marketing is one of those things of if we don't understand what marketing, the outcomes of marketing are, we're in big trouble, right? So marketing tends to look at how many leads can I generate. So it's not about selling, and everyone thinks that if I market, I must get immediate sales back. But marketing is about generating leads, making sure I've got people I can talk to. So we've got to make sure that the audience I'm talking to is available, and that's what marketing generates. Marketing builds that audience, and then hopefully from that audience, the conversion into sales may happen. Now consider this: if I don't have an audience to talk to and my sales dries up, what do I do then? Right? So when you ask how important marketing is, if I don't have a pool of people I can talk to, whether they are customers or not, or suppliers or not, if I don't talk to people and show them what I'm doing or advertise what I'm doing, my sales will start drying up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And Dougal, to your question earlier, differentiation effectively, if we look at the olden days, differentiation is effectively a moat around your business, right? Now, what a moat is, back in the days when you protect your castle, you had a body of water lying around a castle, right? The deeper and wider your moat, the less chance you had of intruders coming in and stealing your stuff or rampaging your castle.
Yeah.
Marketing does it for you. Marketing puts that divide between you and your competitors. It makes it very difficult for your customers to go and to want to move across to somebody else. And it also makes it very difficult for competitors to go and poach your customers because they can't show what they're doing as well as you can.
Yeah.
And once customers know what you're doing and they can understand what you're doing, the chances are they'll remain with you for a lot longer as well. So the consistency in marketing becomes vitally important. Every single week or every single period, you've got to have a plan of how often you are interacting with your database of people.
I love that. I love that. It is.
Oh, Damion, I think we could probably chat about this whole day, and I mean, I know you're very passionate about it, and it comes through definitely, and having to deal with OptiGrowth as as business partners as well, that I've experienced as well. It is extremely exciting, and we can actually talk about this all day. Is there any final thoughts? And I think we've come to the point where we have to kind of do a finish up now. And is there any final thoughts from your side, Damion?
Definitely. So there's two things. I can talk about this for days on end if I wanted to. And again, if anybody wants to get hold of OptiGrowth and just sort of have a quick chat, maybe do a benchmark of what their business currently looks like, you're welcome to call us. The final thought from our side would be, the biggest worry everyone has is starting something, right? And particularly when it comes to business, there are thousands of methodologies of how to do things, right? You can find books and case studies and how-to journals everywhere. The only way to actually get going is to start. Don't worry about being absolutely perfect. Don't worry about doing it absolutely right. Just take the first step. If you worry about forecasts, just put some numbers down on a page and make that your target. If it doesn't work out, you've learned a lesson at least, right? If you don't know how to market, start by just sending out a mailer. It might not be very good. It might not be the best thing at first, but you'll mature through the process and you'll start building the confidence, and you'll start reading up about things you do, and the maturity will start growing then. And sorry, the very last thing is, we have to remember that no business is a success overnight. Many businesses take 20 to 30 years to start showing up what they actually are good at. Amazon was started in 1994. It's now the biggest company in the world. It's almost 16 years later, right? Microsoft, Apple, they all started out of garages. They all took their time to grow. They didn't just become a multinational corporate within 2 or 3 years. It takes time, unfortunately, and it takes learning.
Yeah, and it's a lot of building blocks in the process, as you've alluded to. But Damion, it has been an absolute pleasure having you. Damion Stander, of course, a partner and executive director with OptiGrowth, and it is very easy to get in touch with Damion because you simply go to their website. Damion, am I right? It's optigrowth.co.za.
100%, yeah.
Is that it? Yeah. So easy enough to get in touch with. Damion, we would really like to thank you for your time. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you this morning, of course, and sharing some insights, because we know there are many business owners and many enterprises, of course, and we all need a bit of a hand. We all need a bit of a push, and at least we've done our bit. OptiGrowth can certainly put you in line with getting those steps and achieving the goals that you've had. So Damion, once again from our side, thank you very much for being part of Mahala Monday. Thank you for your contribution, and thank you for your wonderful insights for today's episode. Thank you, mate.
Thank you for hosting. It's an absolute pleasure, guys.
So there we have it. Damion Stander, folks. He is a partner and executive director at OptiGrowth. Rhoda, there was a lot of things that he has said there. Of course, getting the building blocks out. And it might seem as basics, but it is, and I don't want to say it's complicated, but if you follow the advice, and more importantly, since every business's challenge is different, the demands are different, your market is different, your environment is different, then you've got the pandemic being thrown into all of this. So everybody's got different needs and different challenges. And a business and a company like OptiGrowth, they sort of that business confidants, because they help you to grow, to have the freedom and have control, make the right steps, and this is where they come in. So it is cardinal, it is important to have that business confidence. We all have a best friend.
Oh, yes.
You know, somebody you lay off. This is OptiGrowth.
Yeah.
This is what they do.
I can vouch for that, you know, Dougal, because having to start a business at the end of the day, you need that best friend. You need somebody to talk to. And you know what? Your best friend necessarily is not that person that, you know, that you can actually speak to because they don't do business.
Yeah.
You actually need a business partner, somebody can talk to you about business.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to grudge it and say like be the therapist or anything like that, but this is it. That is that guidance. This is the hold me by the hand, the big brother, if ever you wanted it. Simply go to www.optigrowth.co.za. What an interesting discussion, and thank you very much for your comments, for your shares, of course, and your contribution to this episode, which has been absolutely brilliant. And thank you once again to Damion Stander from OptiGrowth, partner and executive director there, for joining us. So you simply go to optigrowth.co.za for all the information, and definitely have a word with them. Definitely chat to them. It is absolutely brilliant. So Rhoda, that is it from us for today. Thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Mahala Monday. And as Rhoda always likes to say, don't forget to like and share this video. And we will see you soon. We'll be back here at Mahala Monday with another fascinating, informative, and the right kind of episode that you need. But thank you for watching, and thank you for joining us today on Mahala Monday.